Climate change, a crisis we cannot afford to ignore, literally. So warns the former U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson, who's joined the fight the only way he knows how, by appealing to the doubters and deniers through their pocketbooks. A card-carrying member of the Republican establishment, Paulson is attacking from the inside, insisting that confronting climate change now can be good for business, not bad, and would grow the global economy, not shrink it. He's joined an array of top U.S. business leaders with an economic analysis of doing nothing. It's called risky business. Now, the pivot from climate horror movie to climate dollars and cents is also driven by my guest tonight, Felipe Calderon, the former president of Mexico, who passed his oil-producing nation's first climate change law back in 2012. Ahead of the next big UN climate summit in September, Calderon is preparing here in London with the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate, which he chairs. Mr. Calderon, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So you are trying to shift the paradigm in combating climate change. You've taken an economic point of view. Why is that?
The point is, for us, the science has been very clear about the damage of climate change to the future. However, for most of decision takers, either governments or businessmen, the main obstacle is in the economic side. So, as in the American campaign once it was said, is the economy is stupid. So we need to fix that, by demonstrating that it is possible to have economic growth with economic research.
Is it possible?
Is it possible, indeed, completely? We can have economic growth, poverty alleviation, we can create jobs, being responsible with the environment.
Well, let me ask you to delve down into that, because that's obviously critical right now. And it is a dilemma. And not many people agree with you, or maybe they do. I'm going to put up a couple of quotes by people of different opinion. How do you convince somebody like the Australian Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, who says we should do what we reasonably can to limit emissions and avoid climate change, man-made climate change, he added, but we shouldn't clobber the economy?
But the point is, his main concern is about that being responsible could damage the economic performance. I see his point. But with all respect, he's wrong at the point that, first, climate change is going to provoke an incredible economic damage as well, probably more if we don't take action. The damage to the economic side in the future, even in the present, in countries like Mexico, will be even more. Mm-hmm. And second, it is possible to have economic growth if we take the right public policies, tackling climate change, pushing for economic growth. It is possible, but we need to change a set of systems, the system of energy, the system of urban development, and the system of use of land.
Well, you said that it is possible, but let me read you what Henry Paulson said. He has said that he feels that they're in the middle of a climate bubble now and it could harm the economy, as you're saying. He says, I feel as if I'm watching as we fly in slow motion on a collision course towards a giant mountain. That is Henry Paulson, the former Secretary of Treasury, who was a Republican.
Yeah.
And you have been quoted as saying that, you know, the biggest obstacle really to all of this is in the U.S. Congress right now.
Yes, I believe that. Unfortunately,
the Republican-led U.S. Congress.
The point is, in the American politics, it is like a religion issue. It's not a question of science, unfortunately. But for me, it's not a question of do you believe in climate change or you don't? Or do you believer or denier? That is a very grown side to take the issue.
But to a Tony Abbott or to a conservative business owner in the United States or to a Tea Party Republican who doesn't like big government and who thinks that climate change, the idea of tackling it, will cost jobs.
It's not going to cost jobs at aggregate level. Of course, there will be winners and losers, and we need to be honest about that. But at aggregate level, will be even more winners than anything. For instance, now the workers related with the wind energy in the United States are by far much more than the workers in the coal industry in the United States.
So wind has more employment than coal?
Absolutely, and it's going to have even more, of course. So the point is we need to choose the right path to do that. And maybe we need to design some kind of mechanism to compensate the losers. But at aggregate level, I insist it is possible to get not only the same, but even more economic growth. So the point is we need to defeat all those interests, some of them vested interests, that are preventing to take action now.
You famously, when you were president, donned something like a military uniform, and you announced a major war on drugs and on the cartels. Now, you know, during your presidency, I mean, 60,000 people were killed. Bodies have been stacked up. This war was considered a failure. What would you tell your Mexican citizens and our viewers? Was it worth it? Do you regret it?
First of all, let me tell you, I never declared a war on drugs.
You conducted one. You launched one.
No, what I try to do is to enforce the law in Mexico and to make Mexico a real country of rule of law, which is quite important for development. Second, our main aim was to protect the families that are under threat of organized crime.
But as I say, 60,000 people were killed. Your own home state is the most dangerous right now in Mexico, to the point that vigilantes are now in charge of justice because the government can't do it.
But that's exactly my point.
But my point is, do you regret any of your tactics?
You know, you can have success and failures and mistakes like any other, but the strategy in order to protect the families and provide security of the Mexican families, that strategy was correct. And as long, even today, the new government is trying to put in place more or less the same tactics. What you need to do is, first, face the criminal. I face the criminal, yes. And the problem with Mexico is that before that, the criminals were not faced enough. Somebody allowed them to do whatever they wanted. And even they took the control of towns and cities and even some states. And that was the beginning of the problem, Christiana. If you allow, like in my own state, as you say, Michoacán, that the criminals take the control of the police corps or take the control of the governor, how can you imagine that your families are going to be protected? It is impossible. Actually, you can see in Michoacán, the former governor, actually Secretary General of the government, is in jail right now. And the current governor, a few days ago, resigned. Why? Because his son appeared in a video with the criminals. So you need to understand, or we need to understand, that organized crime is taking over the control of territory, not only in Mexico, but in Central America, some countries of Latin America, and some countries in Africa, at least. So we need to face the criminals first. Second, and more important, we need to rebuild the law enforcement institutions. What I found when I took office is the police was completely eroded by corruption in several places. So we need to rebuild all those law enforcement institutions, meaning police corps, attorney general offices, and judges. And third, we need to rebuild the social fabric. That is the right strategy, that the strategy I put in place, and I don't regret about that.
Former President, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you.